once you have your drawing complete, including the cast shadows and form shadows with labels on it, then you can actually go in and address the shadows first. So I'm going to the cast shadows. Those are the shadows that are on the ground, and I'm painting those in. And for those, I used a combination of black, blue, and a little bit of violet on some. The cast shadows that are on the tabletop will end up having some brown in them because the tabletop itself is brown. So a shadow always takes on the local value of whatever object it is. So that brown tabletop will have a darker brown cast shadow on it. And you want to think about the direction of your stroke. I'd actually recommend a bigger brush if you have one for filling in the cast shadows because it's a big cast shadow back there against the wall. And we are going to be painting in pretty much the whole white space. I went ahead and worked off camera to get the shadows, that way you didn't have to sit through and watch me paint every single one. And now I'm going to the form shadows. So the form shadows are on the object themselves, and they also take on the local value of the object. So I'm first of all going towards those warm shadows, and I'm using a clean brush for that. So on that left-hand side of the cube, I was going orange. On the flowers, I went kind of like a yellow-brown color. And then I went to the form shadow on the apple. Make sure that when you're doing the apple and when you're doing the bell pepper, you curve your stroke. You let your stroke wrap around the object. It will make it appear more three-dimensional if you do that. And I'm, of course, time-lapsing all of this, but I'm looking for the dark areas first. So this is my approach to painting, and it's not necessarily the only way you can paint, but I always get the shadows in first. It helps me to articulate the value pattern, and it helps me to see how bright I need to go on the mid-tone side of the object, which is like the medium side. Like on that cube, it was the yellow gold side. Painting the picture was actually really fun because it has a little bit of reflection to it, and I painted that kind of more or less in vertical stripes. And now I'm going to that ground plane, and that ground plane is a wooden board or a wooden tabletop, so I'm going to try and replicate that. Remember, you can always go over your watercolor and give it a second coat. That's okay. But you do want to compare what's called value to value. So value is how dark or how light something is to another piece within that composition. So I was comparing like the top of that square lid to the sides. And I also compared like the bell pepper. How dark is that bell pepper in relationship to that apple? Which one's lighter? Which one's darker? Is one more blue-green? Is one more yellow-green? So those are questions you should begin to ask yourself too. Now I'm going into that background. What that is a gray cloth. It's a backdrop cloth. So I'm going to try and replicate that backdrop. Now if you notice, it is lighter on that right side and it moves more into shadow on the left. That's because the light source is positioned on the right side, and as things move away from the light, they go into shadow. So that's a good thing to start to think about, the light source and how light kind of dissipates as it moves away from the main light source. So a light source can be a light bulb. If you were to go outside, it would be the sunshine, or the moon could be a light source. Fire could be a light source. So there are all sorts of light sources, although we're used to seeing a lot of man-made light sources, like our phone or a flashlight. So here's what my painting looks like when it's more or less finished. Now this is not meant to be like a finished work of art. I would never just like, oh, let me go ahead and sell this. It's like more of a study to help me see color and value. And that's how you should treat it too. It doesn't have to be perfect. In our next lesson, I will break down for you how to view things in terms of value. And we are working in black and white after today, so in some ways that will be easier than working in color.